What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck with you. Buck, what is going on, man?
Man, not too much. Just trying to get it all done. DJ, a little past the draft. Got a little writing to do. We got the pod. It's all good, though. You know what time of the year it is.
Oh, yeah. I've got 1 week till I've got a little over a week till I have to have my 150 done. So that's, my final project there. So I've been working on that, getting stuff organized, still watching some pop-up guys, some workout guys, which has been a fun exercise. But it's exciting. Looking at the teams more now this time too, just kind of dialing in on teams, talking to people, and some things start to crystallize a little bit, Buck, as you get towards the end. You kind of think like, man, this is just a big mushroom cloud. I have no idea what's going to go on here. And then at the end, start hearing, okay, they're off this guy, they're on that guy, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny when we get to it because I feel like we go on this big old journey, right? We start where we think about players, then we kind of go around and we look at tape and we get this, and Buddy started chiming in, and then you kind of get back to where you started at the end of the process. And we've talked about this a few different times. I feel like that also happens in front office. I think as you kind of sit down and you get quiet, you get away from like the group think, and you start like, wait a minute, who are the guys that we really like? Like, who are the guys that we go back with this, check our notes? Who are the ones that we absolutely like, that we can fall in love with? I think that's when you do your best job. Those are the guys that you really want on the team. You can't be swayed by, I would say, like some of the outside opinions that are kind of buzzing and circulating as we get closer to the draft.
No doubt. That's 100% true. I've got a couple things I want to hit on today. Going to get to some underrated players, some polarizing players. I've got 3 this guy, that guy conversations I want to have with you on day 2. Like, I think these are day 2 discussions that are fun ones. I want to get to that first, though. I want to hit this. It's time for Hot or Not, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Buck, I was thinking of the themes of this draft. Like, we'll get into some individual stuff here, but I wanted to get the 30,000 foot view. And so these are the 3 that I came up with, and I'll be curious to see if you think there's other themes that kind of summarize this draft or what kind of encapsulates this draft. So the 3 themes I had, and I've been hitting on a couple of these throughout. Starters, not stars, right? Like, this is a team. I was talking to a GM the other day, a buddy of both of ours, and he was talking about, we feel like we can upgrade the bottom of our roster and fortify and strengthen the middle of our roster. Maybe not our top guys. Maybe these aren't going to be our key core stud guys, but we're going to get better in the back end and in the middle of our roster in this draft. So starters, not stars. Traits versus production. You got to figure out which side of the aisle you fall on that topic, especially think about these pass rushers. And lastly, Buck, I wrote down positional value versus quality of player. Like, these are the 3 themes that I came up with for this draft.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've heard people talk about the level of draft a few different ways. And you talked about like really good, not great. Like, you have a lot of really good players, only a handful of great players. And so you need to pick accordingly. So I believe you can get solid starters, maybe even high-end starters. But in terms of the game changer, difference maker, transcendent talents, not as many as we've seen in some drafts. When it comes down to positional value and player, I think evaluators have to be really, really careful to not get so caught up in positional value that you elevate a guy at a position that is important over top of someone who is a better player. And I think you just have to keep that in mind. I think that happens all the time. And then the last thing is, so many of these guys have bounced around, transfers. You're trying to follow the odyssey and those things. I think it's really important to understand, what did they learn along the way? We've talked about that quarterbacks. We kind of like our quarterbacks to have a little scuff on them, to have gone through some adversity and come on the other side. Well, with these other players, what have they learned on their journeys where they had to bounce around and find the right spot for them? I think all those things are important, but from a 30,000 point perspective, yeah, I mean, you have to certainly understand like where these guys are, what the class is, and make sure that you make decisions based on who this class really is, not what we want them to be.
Yeah, and I also think, I'll get your take on it, but this feels like a stick and pick draft. It doesn't feel like there's enough enticement there for a lot of movement. At least not in the first round.
I'm with you. I don't. It's funny because on TV we get asked to do trades and all this all the time, and you're like, there has to be someone that you're trading for. There has to be a player or really a player or need that you have that is a must have. You got to get this player to fill it. I don't feel as strongly about that in this class. This is one where, and we talked about this, I think last year's draft, the smart teams are looking ahead to not only 2025, but 2026, 2027 and saying, hey, I'll auction off some of these picks later in the draft to get more at a future date. I think more teams are going to get to the fourth round and be like, yeah, we're good. We're good for today. We're good. We'll move on to next weekend. Because there is this thing where it falls off. You just want to make sure that you're bringing players that literally give you a chance to upgrade your roster, not guys that just fill up spots on the roster.
Yeah, no, it's a really good thought there. I also, along those lines, was talking to someone the other day, and he was talking about his team and saying, one of the key strengths for our team is that we know, and this is something you've brought up in the past, but he said we know who our developmental coaches are. Because I was like, hey, I'm doing all these pop-up guys, and these guys are potentially like 7th round PFA types, and people have different strategies on that. Do you try and get a special teams player that can come in and help you right away? Do you get a tradesy, small school kid who you just want raw and develop, and you take your time with them? Do you take the quarterback flyer as teams have been want to do? And he said, and this team's been successful. And he said one of the keys to our success is we know our developmental coaches. We know the guys that we can bring in at certain positions that our coaches can develop. So, and he kind of, those are the positions we're going to look at late in the draft, and we're just going to get the raw toolsy guys.
Well, I mean, one of the things we've talked about, the job of the general manager is not only to scout players and to scout the scouts, but it's also to scout the coaches. The draft and develop strategy never works if you don't do the developmental part of it. And so when you say, hey, this is how we're going to build our team, it's going to be a homegrown team organization. This is what we're going to do. Well, the people that touch the players need to be really good at developing the players. Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels. And that requires everyone to not only listen to what the coaches say in meetings when they're reading their own reports, but it's observing what they've done with the players they've been given. Can they turn a C player into a B player through the diligent work that they do on the practice field? Can they help a practice squad player get ready to play quickly at the end of the year when we see this happen all the time, that the bottom of the roster players are playing vital roles on playoff runs just because of the attrition of the season? It is really important that you know your coaches and that your coaches are great teachers, great developers, if you're going to subscribe to that theory. So, yeah, I agree with your buddy when he talks about that. Got to know your coaches.
Yeah, he. I'll tell you later. It's also your buddy. All right, that was this week's Hot or Not segment, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Store more and do more with your data. Try them for free at wasabi.com. Buck, I touched on it at the top. Polarizing players. I tweeted this out the other day, and I thought we could kind of go through each of these players individually, because not only the discussion on them, but there's other players and other discussions that take place. And for those that want to peek behind the curtain, at this point in time, majority of the teams, the vast majority, are in their final meetings. They're getting everything set up. This is the kind of the week that they're polishing it up and getting the board set in place. And you have coaches who've had a chance to go work these guys out, spend time with them, get to know the person as well as the player. And you've got the scouts in there, and they're all kind of scrimmaging this stuff out. And so, and talking to a bunch of teams, these are the names that I came up with, where inside these individual buildings, not saying just this team versus that team, I'm saying inside the building, they've got wide range of grades. It's Tetairoa McMillan, the receiver from Arizona. It's Donovan Ezeiruaku, edge rusher from Boston College. It's Ravel, the corner from ECU. It's Jordan Birch, the edge rusher, big jumbo edge rusher from Oregon. And it's Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama.
Interesting list.
So can you see? I'm gonna give you the player, and I can tell you what the discussion is, but I'm curious with what you think it would be. What do you think the issue would be? Let's start with McMillan. Why would people love him and some people not love him?
I think they would love the size, the athleticism, the acrobatic plays, the flashes that you see on tape that lead you to believe that he could be a dominant playmaker at the next level. Why they would hate him or have questions about him, the urgency and the consistent dominance isn't there. You kind of need to get them going. You want to get the poker to him and be like, man, you could be such a dominant player if you would bring the energy and effort every play. He doesn't do that. He's more of what we call a cruiser. He's been good enough. He's been better than everybody athletically. So he just does enough to dominate without knowing how hard he has to work to really be a dominant player at the next level. Maybe it can be taught, or maybe he is what he is and he's going to continue to be that as a pro. That would be the scary part if I'm in the room.
You nailed it. The term that was used with one of the teams I talked to was cruise control. Like, I just worry about the guy who's always on cruise control. Like, I don't see him dial it up. I worry about him getting off press. I worry about him fighting through what he's got to fight through at the catch point. And like, he's an incredible, acrobatic athlete. And, it was funny. People have looking at the same thing and come away with different takeaways. And I laugh about it a little bit because you even hear a positive, right? I think we don't know if we talked about this before, but hey, he's got a volleyball background that shows up in how athletic he is.
Yeah.
And then you know what else you hear? He's got a volleyball he's a volleyball player.
He's not really. Is he a dog?
Yes, exactly.
So is he a dog?
That's just those are the discussions taking place in the room, and you got to figure out where you land on it. I'd probably come down somewhere in the middle. I still have him as a top 20 player in the draft. But DJ, I think the expectation was going into the year, Buck, that this was going to be a top 5 pick.
It was. That was the expectation. In fact, I started the process thinking that he was going to be a top 5, top 10 player, given that, because I think when I close my eyes, I envision him being Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm. He's not Mike Evans.
I know, but I envision him being someone that's big and fast and physical that dominates like that. But that's not what he is, But that's what you would hope that someone who has those tools, been given those tools off the assembly line, will become a player like Mike Evans has become a dominant player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some of that is, if that was your image going into the process, you came away from it, you'd be like, man. But if you just went with a blank slate and just watched him as who he is and what he is, you'd be like, this is a good player. He is a good player.
He is. He is a good player. You wonder where he tops out at. Look, for me, everything is about where he goes and who is his position coach. Yeah. Who's the one that can unlock a little more.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the next one here. Ezeiruaku, who I'm a fan of, and I've found teams that are and GMs and coaches that are sponsors, and I found GMs and coaches that are skeptical. And I'll kick it to you. What do you think the difference is there?
The people that love him, they love the motor, they love the production, and just the relentlessness that you see him play with. The people that are anti, the length or the size, the packaging doesn't necessarily fit, and you wonder, what is he going to give you on those other downs that are not passing downs? Like, can he stay on the field and hold his own on the edges when you need him to be that every down player?
So it's close. I mean, he's got long arms. He's one of those unique guys where he's 6'2", but he has length. So he's got the long arms. The concern really is just he doesn't have power. So, and again, like, I think this is an interesting way to frame these, because you can say the same thing and come away with a different conclusion. He wins a lot of different ways, which I like, because he has a lot of different ways to get to the quarterback. But power and ruggedness is not one of them. And I was talking to a coach who brought up a point. He was like, hey, he needs fewer pitches. Like, like, all these pitches are great, but he needs too many. He has too many. He needs to be able to win. Like, watch the NFL. Power is a big part of how you win in the NFL. You have to be able to collapse and crush the pocket. So he's got to develop that. Can he develop that? And my thing was, I think that there's, we talked about the tight end tree a while ago, and you have kind of like the Gronk tree, the Kelsey tree, the different styles of guys. And we've talked about craftsmen on here a lot, about pass rushers who are craftsmen. But if you look at it, those guys it doesn't happen right away, because they've been able to use all these different tricks in college. Like Trey Hendrickson, look at his sack totals his first few years in the league. It took a couple years before it hit, and then it hit big. I think last year we would be on the same page and say Leatu Latu was the most gifted, skilled pass rusher, but that didn't click right away, because all that stuff doesn't always translate. You got to figure out what works. Now, I think all three of these guys are smart, and I think obviously Hendrickson's blown it up. He's figured it out and become a great player. I think Latu's going to get there. He's not there yet. And I think with Ezeiruaku, I think the same thing. I think he's got he can play with some leverage. He's just, he needs to work on power and convert that power. But I like him a lot. I think he's got a chance. There's teams that like him. I think he's got a chance. Could be a top 20 pick. I've looked at Tampa, but that's the conversation on him.
Yeah, the thing about that, when someone is more finesse than force, you do wonder what happens when he meets that mountain of a man that can sit down on him and not let him get to his go-to move. What is the alternative if you can't just race around the edge? If you can't out-wiggle him, what do you have? The guys who are balanced in terms of being able to turn speed into power, they can win with force or finesse. They're the ones that consistently ring up 12, 13, 14 sacks because they have a few different ways to get there. Not saying that he's a one-trick pony, but he certainly has to have the game tilted a certain way for him to have success coming off the edges.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge there. You got to figure that out. Siobhan Ravel, a corner from ECU. Look, he's coming off of injury, so he hasn't been healthy through the year with the ACL. So that's a big part of that discussion. I also think there's just some teams that don't like the taller, leggier corner. So a lot of that's going to be usage, I think, with his debate.
Yeah, scheme fit is everything for him. But also, DJ, here's the other. I would be surprised that people haven't talked about, like, his history. If you really look at his history, coming out of high school, going to a JUCO, going to Lewisburg, making his way to East Carolina, playing that 1 year, then getting hurt this year, there's not an extensive resume that you can really lean on when we talk about him being a first-round pick or a top of the second-round pick. It is definitely more projection than anything, and part of that projection is how are we going to use him? How does he fit in the scheme that we run? And I would expect he would be on so many different places, on different boards, depending on what scheme they play. To me, he's the old school Seattle type corner, the old school Sherman, Brandon Brown, or that guy super long. We'll see, though. We'll see where he fits.
Yep. I think he goes on day 2. I think he'll go in the second round. Next one, Jordan Birch from Oregon. He's 6'0", 4'1", 269, 4'6", This discussion, Buck, is kind of a tweener. Those that see the glass half full and those that see it half empty. He's kind of a finesse big guy on the edge. He can really go. He can really, really run. Some teams feel like his best fit's going to be what he can do as a sub rusher inside. But similar to Ezeiruaku, I think that discussion is just kind of like, is he rugged? Is he rugged enough?
Yeah, that's the thing, because that's a big part of the game. Like, you got to have guys in trenches that can embrace a rock'em sock'em robot style. That would be the big question I would have after looking at him on tape. Like, can he get down and dirty? Can he make it physical enough if we have to have that kind of game plan? That would be a major question and concern.
Yeah. And then finally, Jalen Milroe. Again, we've talked about it. We talked about him a lot on here, so we don't need to go long here. But it's pretty simple. You buy into the athletic package and you're banking on just time and development, that there's more there. He's smart. He's a good worker. He's an incredible athlete. The main sticking point with a lot of teams has been vision decision making. Just, gosh, does he see it? Does he see it really well? That's kind of that's the topic that comes up on the teams that aren't buying it.
It's such a hard thing, because I wish I could kind of read ahead, get to the last page of the book to figure out where he goes, and then I can give you a thumbs up or down on whether I believe he'll make it. A lot of it with Jalen Milroe is not only the athleticism and how you want to use it, but do you buy into the kid? Mm-hmm. A lot of the reason why Jalen Hurts worked is because you could buy into the kid that he was going to figure it out based on his work ethic and his leadership skills and those things. With Jalen Milroe, can people get close enough to him to say, hey, I'm willing to bet on the kid. I'm willing to bet that he is going to put everything into it and figure it out along the way, how he needs to play to be able to help this offense move the ball consistently and to win games as he's continued to add tools to the tool belt.
Yeah, no, I think he's going in the second round, man. I do. We'll see.
I'm pretty confident that he was going there. It threw me off, though, when he got the invitation to whatever.
Yeah,
I was like,
the draft. Well, you never know.
You
never know.
Yeah.
But no, I think you'll end up going early in the second round. So we'll see what happens there. All right, Buck. I was just going through it, and to me, I had the connection with 3 guys who I thought were I just really like them as players. And I talked to teams there. I found some love, I should say, maybe not love, but I just think these guys are all 3 good football players. I think all three of them belong on day 2. And ironically, they all play in the secondary for the Cal Bears. Noel Williams, the corner, who had 7 picks. He had 3 against Auburn. He played well. Had a pick 6 against Cam Ward. He's feisty. He's quick. He just has excellent ball skills. He's he's big. He's over 6 foot, right around 200 pounds. Ran 4.5 flat. Marcus Harris, another corner from there, is a little more juice, a little more twitch. Real fluid, great athlete, recovery speed. And then Craig Woodson's one of my favorite safeties. He's leader. He's smart. He can play all over the place. Deep half, smooth mover. Ran 4.45. He's a firm tackler. Just overall, real smart, good player. I thought all 3 of those Cal Bears are good players, and I thought maybe a little undervalued. Is there anybody that you look at in this draft as you kind of go through the process and you're like, you know what, I'll bet on that one?
No, I like those guys that you mentioned. It's funny because I think Williams was at the East West Shrine game. And we talked because I'm trying to figure out who his agent is. I think his agent is a buddy of mine because they talked to me about him. I remember having to look at him. And there were a couple other guys that were at that game that I feel strongly about that were in the secondary. Kobe Bryant from Kansas, super competitive. If you can see him in one-on-one drills or whatever, man, dude goes nonstop, plays hard, just all out. And the frame scares you, but I love the toughness, the intensity that he brings to the field. And then this is a bit of a homer, but he also was at the game. Elijah Huzzie, nickelback from North Carolina, hurt his knee. I think he got hurt at East West. But DJ, in terms of like the innate feel for the position, he has those things. And not as a day 1 or day 2 guy, but when we're looking at that position, we're trying to find someone that can kind of come out of the lower ranks that could be a much better pro than anyone envisions. To me, he has it. And he has the punt return ability that gives him a chance. So when you think about Marcus Jones that was up in New England when Belichick and those guys took him out of Houston. He kind of reminds me of that. I can get him a jersey each week until he's ready to play, and that gives him a chance to be a key contributor whenever he gets a chance.
Yeah, I love that. I just put a little note on there. I'm going to go back and watch a little bit more of him. That's good stuff. All right, 3. I got 3 this or that's, okay? These are discussions that are taking place in rooms around the league. Good debates, good discussions. You ready to roll?
Yep.
Terrence Ferguson versus Harold Fannin, tight end position.
Man, I like Fannin, and I don't want to be overly influenced by the times, the comment, whatever. But
Ferguson's bigger, faster. That's going in his favor.
And I can't say this, but like the way that Fanning consistently gets open, it's like, I don't know how this dude gets open all the time. Like he's open a skill all the time. It's such
everybody
herky jerky, awkward. He's James Harden, right? He's James Harden on the football field, like creating separation, but he can do it all. And when you go back and you think about, like, I think he was a safety, a running back, and all of that, it comes out. To me, I'll just lean towards him. He is so productive. 1,300 yards at tight end. That's stupid production.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. To me, that's where I came down on it too. But there are teams that like Ferguson better because of the traits. But I just got Harold Fannin. To me was like, you remember Harold Miner with Baby Jordan. This is another Harold Fannin is Baby Gates. So that's who.
Okay, so DJ, I did not want to say Antonio Gates because I'm say that somebody's a Hall of Famer, but I am telling you, when I'm watching him, I have to give context. I saw Antonio Gates play in preseason his first year.
I was with you in the press box.
Yeah, and I remember looking and I had to grade him. I think I gave him a 4.9, which was like whatever. Yeah. And I'm looking at him later in his career. I'm like, how is he 5 yards open and he can't run anymore? That's what I see when I see Fannin. Like, how is he wide open?
It does it.
It's just unbelievable how it happens. Yeah.
All right, Jaden Higgins versus Jack Besh.
Besh is so productive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just really productive, really smooth.
Jaden Higgins has got a lot of pop and a lot of buzz. He's going to go early second round. I think he's going to go ahead. He's going to go ahead of Besh. But I'm just saying, like, you get a chance to see at the Senior Bowl, and I'm sitting there going, like, I don't know, man. Besh kind of dominated down there at that Senior Bowl, and then
dominated
game winner.
Game winner. Yeah, there's something. There's something to that. Like, it's so funny. I just want people to understand, because we're in green. We had not talked about any of this
No,
coming in. It's funny,
no.
we're falling on the same side of the argument. Yeah,
but I mean, I
he's a
just
really
think it's
good
been
player.
kind of universal. Jaden Higgins is a good player. I like him, but I just go back down to the Senior Bowl. I can't get that out of my head. All right, last one, and this is one that here we are. As we're recording this, we're 13 days away. Is that right? 13 days away from the draft, I think. I don't even have my final answer on this one, Buck. So you can't say we're on the same page because I'm not on a page. JTT from Ohio State. Nick Scorton from A&M.
Okay, I'm going to stay true to what I believed early. I'm a Scorton fan. I was a Scorton fan, just watching him, seeing how hard he played, seeing what he brings to the table. To me, I'm just betting on him all day. I think he figures out a way to have success. Combine was a bit of a disappointment in terms of, like, I thought he was going to be much better, but man, on the tape, I just fell in love with what I saw from him early and often, just making plays and kind of always been around it.
I talked about this the other day. He played at close to 280 this year. And then at the pro day, he's 257. He's like a different human being. And come to find out, they wanted to bulk him up at A&M. So that's why he was playing in that particular body type. And I didn't see like the pop or the juice from him. And that was my concern with him. And then everybody I talked to said, you go back and watch him at Purdue, and he's a lighter guy. And that's where he's at his best. And I guess his pro day was excellent. Like the way he moved around and stuff, coaches raved about him. And then everybody that's met with him, and really both these kids, I should say this about both of them, the teams that have met with them and talked with these kids, they are studs, like great kids. These D-line coaches want to coach these two kids. And I think they are going to come off the board in a very similar proximity when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get enough of good players. That's good intel, though, about Scorton and what he was at Purdue. And that's really important, why scouts have to dig deeper than just that final campaign. It is, the final campaign matters, but really it's the entire body of work and understanding the whys behind the successes or failures that you see during that final campaign.
Yeah. By the way, I got to get this. I got to check this, but somebody did tell me that he does not like going by JTT. So I guess it's JT Tuimala. So if I was offensive there, I apologize. I will not do that when we get to the draft. But maybe it was someone just busting my chops. But I did hear from somebody that he does not like being called that. I would love to be called JTT. It's a great name.
I mean, it's a great name, but hopefully you're not in here on Path to the Draft when he comes through and you say, "Hey, JTT," he's upset. We don't want that.
Nothing was worth. Yeah, we don't. I can't share some of those stories about guys coming through on Path and telling them I know certain people in their life that I find out they no longer have relationships with. That was not my finest hour there, Buck. You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
All right. That's going to do it for us today, man. We are almost to the draft. We appreciate you guys hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.